Hello to gamers, viewers, and zombie slayers. My name is MrSapperism, and welcome to another Planetside 2 video. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the best things to use your cert points on, at least on the beginning of the game, what you should be using your cert points on. And this is all my opinion, this is all from my experience with Planetside 2. Now, there have been many changes to cert points in Planetside 2, and the main one would be how easy it is now to gain cert points, to make cert points, right? It's so much easier because now there's these ribbons, there's so many things that you can actually do which give you XP in order, and which as a result give you so much more cert points, especially then when compared to how you used to earn cert points a long time ago. And so now, what I recommend you guys actually do with your cert points when you first get them, when you first get your cert points, you should, in my opinion, either focus on either the engineer class or the combat medic. The two reasons for this are because they both earn, in my opinion, the fastest amount and the most consistent amount, or the highest amount of cert points compared to all the other classes. So what you really want to do is you want to upgrade either the repair tool or the medic tool. Now I've upgraded both of them, so they're both rank 6 for me, which is the maximum rank. And now the reason I've done that, and why I recommend you guys do that, is because they're both repairing and healing your teammates, especially reviving your teammates. So what I recommend myself is to focus on the combat medics revive tool or hero tool, whatever you like to call it. Some people call it the Jesus gun, right? Now there's a good reason why people call it the Jesus gun. It's because when you get to rank 6, I believe of the gun, yes it is rank 6, you might see somewhere in this gameplay me reviving teammates, and you'll see how fast it is to revive and to heal teammates. And doing this really gives you the fastest amount of cert points as well as the most amount of cert points, because you can do it really quickly in a... if you go to Biolabs or Bloodbath, which is a shitstorm of death, you can really just repair, or not so much repair, you can repair maxes and you can still get a lot of cert points from that, but healing people and reviving people actually gives you way more cert points than repairing. Although repairing can get you a lot of cert points as well and XP, don't get me wrong, as well as providing ammunition as an engineer. But when compared to the medic class or combat medic, you can also get the other things such as the what's it called? It's like this bubble, this red one. I believe it was the regeneration field. That's what it's called, and which regenerates the shields everyone gets. So if you were to use the regeneration shield and your repair or your heal tool slash revival tool or Jesus gun on your teammates, you'd actually be farming a lot more cert points in order, and as a result, you could actually spend a lot more cert points upgrading your characters. Now the reason I say upgrading your characters over your guns or your actual vehicles is because the characters actually, your characters, when I'm speaking about characters I mean your engineer, your combat medic, this kind of stuff. When I speak about them, they're the fundamental things that actually gain you cert points. So when compared with someone who has the absorb shield at maximum and someone who doesn't, in a gunfight, generally the person with the highest absorb shield would win, as they can sustain more bullets or more damage than the other person. So that was an example of how upgrading your slot points can actually achieve you more cert points, as you can actually last far longer in battle. And that's really important as well, especially when playing combat medic or an engineer, because if you don't have, say you don't have a, what was it called, there's a projectile defense one. It's one of the slot points which absorbs the small arms fire. I don't remember what it was right now. Off the top of my head. If I do remember, I'll put it in the video. But basically what it does is it reduces the amount of damage small arms fire does to you. So if you're an engineer or you're a combat medic and you're holding the line somewhere and the enemy is pushing forward and eventually they start shooting at you, you can actually probably take cover or fire back at them and sustain more damage without dying. So that's one example of why you should actually spend more cert points on your actual characters and your character modifications rather than actually buying more guns, especially because of the fact that many of the guns are really overpriced and you really don't need them. The default weapons, in my opinion, are one of the best weapons in the game when it comes to all-around situations. Now many people may have told you this before, but I believe that it's actually true. I stand by that argument, I suppose. The default weapons are amazing, and at one point you do want to actually start upgrading your weapons. Now what I mean by upgrading your weapons is getting scopes, getting compensators, getting grips and so on, and that kind of stuff can wait a little bit longer, because the first thing what you want to do if you go and upgrade your guns is get the cheapest scopes, because the iron sights are they're not as useful as the scopes would be. Let's just put it like that, right? Some people like iron sights, I don't really like the iron sights. I always go for the first thing I always go for is the 5 Cert scope, which is I believe like some sort of dot scope, red dot scope. For the Vanu, it's a different one, but yeah, go for the 5 Cert scopes, because they are pretty much the fundamental things you want when upgrading your weapon, especially your default weapon, as they're just going to help you far more in combat than the iron sights, obviously. Now, the reason they're also really cheap as well, the 5 Cert scopes, so that's the reason why I say to spend Cert points on them, and you don't really need to go anywhere further than that. Other people would tend to go further to get the 6 times scope or whatever. It depends on your weapon as well. I just stick with the 5 Cert scopes because it's pretty easy, pretty nice, it's nice and clear, it's really easy to use, and it doesn't obstruct anything, so it's basically a major advantage over people using iron sights. Now, what is important for you guys to remember, especially if you're a new player to the game, is to focus your Cert points mainly on one class only at the beginning. You want to obviously need, when you get used to the game, distribute your Cert points to your different classes, but what you can do is, my opinion, this is my advice, is to spend your Cert points on one of the classes in order to gain a lot more Cert points for other classes. So, well, like I said, the medic class, the engineer class does give you a lot of Cert points and experience as well, but not as much. You can get easy Cert points from repairing vehicles, repairing maxes, and resupplying your teammates with ammunition. Right, it's a good way. That's what I did for some time, and then I started doing the combat medic class on my new account when I got a new account after they opened up the Australian servers. After they introduced Australian servers, I should say, and that was when I realized that the combat medic class increases your, I won't say increase, but it's far easier to get Cert points as a combat medic because there's far more situations where it's necessary to use the combat medic tool rather than a repair tool, as you can't really repair your teammates, your light assault, but you can revive them and heal them, that kind of thing, right? And your medic tool, let's just call it that, when it is rank 6, it heals and it revives teammates really quickly. It's so fast. I'm not sure if I've already mentioned that earlier on this video. This isn't scripted. I'm just reading notes down so I know what I'm talking about. And it's really easy to. It actually repairs on the thing. Not repairs. It heals and it revives teammates much faster than the actual repair tool itself. So in my opinion, it's much more of a better investment than the repair tool. Although don't get me wrong, the repair tool is a very good investment to use your Cert points on, but not as good as the medic tool. Now, after you've actually upgraded your medic tool or your rival tool, Jesus gun, whatever, you might want to actually spend some. This doesn't have to necessarily occur right after you've earned all 6 ranks of it, as it can take a while to earn, obviously. What you can do, maybe if you've earned 3 or 2 ranks of the medic gun, is to get something such as the nanowave armor. I believe that's what it was, which reduces the amount of bullets it takes to increases the amount of bullets that it takes to kill you. My bad. And I think that's very important as well, especially if you're a frontline combat medic, which is basically what you should do if you want to start grinding Cert points really easily, as you'll obviously be much harder to kill. You can last longer in battle as well. Another thing you might want to consider buying is the regeneration kit. It's like a little needle they stick into your arm and it regenerates your HP instantly. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but I'm pretty sure you guys will know it when you see it. It's like a massive needle, obviously. I believe it's 50 Cert points when you first starts off, and it's really really handy, especially if you're playing as a frontline combat medic, as you will easily be, if someone's shooting at you and you almost die, say your HP bar is like 50%, you can easily inject that into you. I sound like I'm talking about drugs here, but you can usually just stab that into your arm and it'll refill your HP bar fully, which allows you to stay in battle much longer. And this is the reason you want this, is because you can actually, if you're alive for a long period of time, then you can actually revive your teammates around you that are dead, and this in turn helps your whole team, as well. You have more people fighting, and rather than people having to spawn back at the galaxy or at the Sundra, they can spawn back where they died and continue to push, continue fighting. And this in turn gives you a lot of XP and Cert points, as well as helps your teammates out. So, in turn, this is like a win-win for everyone. Then I really think this is one of the most important things to buy. I recommend buying 2 of these things, ranks 1 and 2, as the more ranks you purchase, the more of them you actually have. Although to me, it's unnecessary to have more than 2. But other people might have different ideas, different recommendations, whatever. This is my opinion. This is what I think is my opinion. So. Now, after you've chosen which slot abilities you want, or upgraded your medic tool, or even your regeneration tool, you might be thinking, why don't we get a revival grenade or regeneration grenade? Now, in my opinion, they're far less useful than the actual grenade itself, because you want something to throw at people to kill them, obviously, right? And that's really good when taking out groups of enemies, and sometimes a revival grenade isn't actually the best idea, because you can just, a lot of the time, you'll just be reviving your teammates in the middle of a shitstorm of bullets, and that's really not a good idea. If you can't run out to revive your teammates, don't bother throwing a revival grenade at them, because you're just going to waste the grenade, and it costs a lot of infantry resources as well, I believe. It's pretty unnecessary right now to use a revival grenade. I wouldn't recommend them for anyone. And the guy just going to end up dying when he gets up, so it's a horrible idea. Don't bother with that just yet. Or maybe if you have like so many spare cert points, like 7,000 cert points, go ahead. But right now we're talking about early on in the game. Another way to earn cert points is by being or assisting your teammates with transportation. So by that I mean Sunderas and Galaxies. Now recently, I wouldn't say recently, but a while ago, that you had to pay for the AMS, which was to deploy your Sundera, and now it comes with your Sundera. I wouldn't say recently, it was a long time ago. So now, if you deploy your Sundera, which I really recommend you do if you want to be transport, you can. It earns you a lot of cert points because your teammates spawn on the Sundera. Also, make sure to, if you're deploying your Sundera, to deploy it in a really good position where it's hidden from enemy fire, but it's close to the waypoint or the position you're attacking or defending or whatever. Another thing you might want to consider with your transportation is to fly a Galaxy. Now, some people would think that's a bad idea because you get shot down really easily. That depends, because Galaxies have really good armor, by default as well. They take a while to take down. They can last a really long time in the air because of this. And they can transport 12 people, including the pilot. So that's a lot of people. So that's a lot of 12 times transportation XP experience points. As well as the fact that people are just going to keep on spawning at your Galaxy and then dropping over the waypoint, and you're just going to get a lot of cert points from this and a lot of XP. And for someone that's new to the game, it's really helpful to do this stuff because it's really easy as well. So it's just easy cert farming for new players, although you're not getting much skills, not learning how to play the game very well. But hey, this video is about earning certs and how to use them properly if you're new to the game. Now, some people might be wondering what they should use their certs on, gun-wise or that kind of thing, like weapon-wise. What I recommend you actually do is, rather than wasting your cert points early on in other weapons, is that you spend cert points on attachments for weapons, right? So because a lot of the default weapons in Planetside are actually really good. They're really good. One of the best weapons, like I said earlier on in this video. It's not Planetside 2 isn't like other games where they give you like really shitty weapon and they want you to use your first money to get like the best gun in the game, right? Planetside 2, it's quite the opposite. A lot of the other guns are pretty good only in there like for certain things, but the default guns are good for all things, right? That's kind of I don't know if I worded that correctly, but I hope you guys understand what I mean by that. And so what I recommend you do when you get a nice substantial amount of cert points, maybe 1,000 cert points, maybe 500 cert points, is to upgrade your weapon. Not in the sense that you actually buy a new weapon, but in the sense that you buy a foregrip and probably a better scope if you don't really have the 5 cert scope, or if you do have the 5 cert scope, you might want to buy a new scope for your gun. Or if you just like the 5 cert scope, it's a really good scope. I think it's one of the best in my opinion in the game for the what's it called, faction weapons, I suppose you could say. The reason I say to upgrade your weapons this kind of way rather than buying new weapons is because the weapons in the game a lot of them are 1,000 cert points, and to me that's pretty much a rip-off, because I mean, don't get me wrong, cert points are much easier to earn in Planetside 2, but they are still not as fast when it's not worth buying new weapons in the game with cert points, because you could spend cert points on so many more things which are far more useful to you, and which increase the potential of you earning cert points far greater than actual weapons themselves, because they just probably increase the fun, I suppose. But then in reality, if you want to earn a lot more cert points in order to get a lot more weapons, you might want to earlier on spend a little bit of cert points upgrading your primary weapons, your default weapons, as they are actually one of the best in the game, like I've said earlier on. Now, one of the things Planetside 2 does kind of wrong, I suppose you could say, is some things that are really fundamental to the game, really important to your team, I suppose you could say, you have to actually pay for or purchase. Now, a lot of people don't actually know about this stuff, know what to buy, what not to buy, and so they start buying whatever looks cool, right? It's not a good idea, but it's what people do. And if you really want to try a new weapon out, and to be effective and to help your team out, what I recommend you do is to buy a ground-to-air rocket launcher That's your faction granted rocket launcher, so the ones that are 250 cert points. Now the reason I say this is because 250 cert points is pretty easy to find. It's pretty easy to make. And 2 is because the heavy assault doesn't really come prepared for anti-air. You don't really get much anti-air in Planetside 2 when you first start off the game, and that's pretty sad, I suppose. But it's really what's really needed in Planetside 2 is a lot of anti-air troops. You do have the burster, I believe it's called, for the max suit, but you only have 1, and it's kind of effective, but not as effective as it would be with 2 bursters. The bursters, I believe, are 1,000 cert points each, and it's good, but it's not as good if you would have a ground to air rocket launcher to combat aircrafts such as the fighter jets and the Liberators and Galaxies and so on, because that is really useful to be able to combat that stuff, and especially because of the fact that you come with unguided rocket launchers, and a lot of people when they first start playing the game they don't know how to use them very well. It's not very user friendly or noob friendly, I suppose you could say. The last thing I could say to help you guys earn cert points is this applies to everyone, no matter what role you're playing or what class you're playing as, is to play your role, to do what your class is best at doing. So if you're an engineer, resupply your teammates with ammunition, use the turrets to provide a shitstorm of bullets on the enemies, and repair your vehicles and your maxes. If you're a combat medic, heal your teammates, revive your teammates, right? If you're in heavy assault, kill some bitches, blow some shit up, right? Recon, spot a lot of shit and shoot people from a distance. If you play, or if you have an SMG, I don't think you don't start with an SMG in Planetside 2 by default. So, but eventually, if you guys do, then yeah, go ahead. So play your roles, and if you're an infiltrator, what I recommend you do is actually go for the bases, amp stations and so on, because you can go invisible, so you have like a major advantage over everyone. And that's going to help you and your teammates a lot. So that's the main things you guys could do. Also go for the objectives all the time. They just give massive cert points if you go for the A points. Not A points, but if you go for the points for the objectives. You're going to get so many more cert points from that, and a lot of experience points as well. I believe I've spoken about everything I think is important in Planetside 2 to spend your cert points on and to do in order to get a lot of cert points and experience points as a beginner in the game. These things do still apply later on in the game as well. No matter what rank you are, there will always be the best or easiest ways, in my opinion, to earn cert points, other than killing people. But killing people also doesn't necessarily. It's just much easier to do what I said, to be the supportive role. Now, if you guys had enjoyed this video, please remember to smack the like button below, like it's a girlfriend's ass. Please subscribe. Tell me in the comments below if any of this was useful. If this was not useful, feel free to tell me in the comments below. Also, if I've forgotten anything, please feel free to write it down in the comments below to help other people out, because the more we help new people out in Planetside 2, the more we help ourselves out in a sense, or in a way, because there'll be a lot less people running around not knowing what to do, and there'll be a lot more people running around knowing what to do. There's a massive difference. This video is far longer than I actually wanted it to be. It's 18 minutes long, so I'm going to end it right here, guys. Thank you for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys another time. See ya.